another week, another episode of Troubled. This is a weekly Haven Rewatch podcast. That's the SyFy TV show from 2010 that ran about 6 seasons, based off The Colorado Kid by Stephen King. My name is Alex French. I'll be your first host today. I'm a writer and podcaster. And my co-host is...
Thanks, Alex. I am Rich French. I am also a podcaster, former Army Sergeant and health insurance and healthcare management career field, but now I want to transition to podcasting. So thanks for listening, and hopefully we can do more of these.
Yeah, so if you want to reach us, we have a Facebook page for the Troubled Haven podcast. We're setting up a Patreon that'll be ready soon. You can kind of take a look. We have some extra content coming your way. With all of that, I think we're doing an episode purely based on the novella Colorado Kid, so keep your eyes peeled if you want to visit us there. I'll have more specific information later. Okay, this one's going to be a little different than how we did the format for episode 1. For the last episode we kind of went through the whole episode. We introduced the show, then we went through the whole episode. We gave our commentary kind of splash throughout, but now we're going to kind of change it and do a summary real quick at the beginning, kind of get you into the show in case you're not watching, and then we'll move into just a more general discussion, just to kind of, I think, make it a bit more interesting. I think that'll turn out better for everyone, because if you're rewatching the show, you don't really need us to re-describe everything that you just watched in a longer podcast than the TV episode.
No, I agree completely. We, you can trust your own eyes, and we'll work on giving you guys some different content and different information.
All right, so this one is episode 2. Coming right off the heels of the pilot, we kind of start with some characters we're not familiar with. We meet the Rev, Hannah, his daughter, and Bobby, her, what is that? Bobby's her, not adopted, but...
foster. A foster child situation, and Otis is also on scene.
Is that the bartender?
Yeah, Otis is the manager or owner of the Rusty Bucket.
Is he like a regular, or is he just for the episode? I don't think he shows up, right?
I think he's just for the episode, so yeah. You don't have to expand any energy in trying to remember Otis. He's not that memorable of a character.
Well, I think it's funny that they haven't used the Gray Gull yet, but and they're using this bar instead. But I guess they got to wreck the front.
Well, one of the funny things in the commentary was that it was meant to be a dive bar, and unfortunately, they couldn't find a divey enough bar in there, and he just left the name Rusty Bucket anyways.
Yeah, it looks pretty not divey, looks more high end. So the Rev, played by Stephen McHattie, shows up, gets real mad. His daughter's running the numbers for this bar. And what does the Rev kind of come up and do? He's kind of coming up and yelling about sin and all that stuff.
Right. It's, for those of you who like the show and have watched it, Rev is, kind of one of the thorns in the side of a lot of the protagonists in the show. But he does, fire and brimstone, and, sees bars as like a den of inequity type of thing.
Right.
Does not want Hannah being involved in any way.
Because we found out later he is a recovering alcoholic who falls off the wagon pretty hard in the episode. So he yells, they leave, and then the next morning a giant bronze ball comes rolling through town, led by a butterfly, crashes in. We kind of transition to, we finally get our intro, but then we transition to Audrey back at the police station, and she is talking to the chief about staying longer, and he's trying to get her to trying to get her to stay, right?
Right. He's telling her that it's going to take a long time. That case was from a long time ago. Why don't you enjoy your vacation? Go check out the moose farm.
And she's like, she's, once again, not much of a social life, so she's fuck that. Finds out about the case Nathan brings up, goes to investigate. Bronze balls destroyed a bar. They try to look into it. They go to the church, meet the Rev, and Nathan has a pretty averse reaction to the Rev, right?
Yeah, I've never seen Nathan that upset. Now, granted, it's only the second episode, and, sadly, it's rest of things I've seen are bleeding in, but Nathan's usually mild-mannered guy, and boy, the Rev pisses him off.
Yeah, exactly.
And we find out why.
Yeah. So they have like a little conversation. Audrey gets in their face. We kind of get fully introduced to Hannah, his daughter, and she seems pretty scared of the Rev. Bobby, who looks up to the Rev, but the Rev's not very nice to him. But they have a conversation afterwards about why Nathan, the Rev's he's pretty obstinate in not helping them. They have a conversation after Nathan. Is that where Nathan explains why he doesn't like the Rev?
He explains it when they walk out of the baptism, when the Rev is talking about, you had to protect this baby from the troubled and ungodly in the community. And, Nathan's just like, fuck this, I'm out of here. And then...
so they have like a little conversation. He doesn't like the Rev. And then Audrey goes back to her hotel, sees a butterfly, and then gets cocooned by, is it just like rope? Kind of like... It's
the thread from the blanket. And,
right.
I mean, it's horrible. I mean, that's bad effects. I don't care what budget you're working on. That looked pretty ridiculous.
Right. So then she gets cut out by Nathan off camera, and then we kind of move into, they go to back to the church because they're like, the Rev's behind this. Like, who else would want to attack her? He gets attacked his necklace gets magnetized to a car, and then another car tries to crush him, and they manage to save him at the last second.
He gets attached to magnetized to a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and then which gets smashed by a Dodge Neon, and once again, both pieces of shit. So
yeah, well, depend. I mean, we could say that about the Rev too. Maybe all three. He almost gets killed. He gets fucking. He's mad about them talking to his daughter, right? And he gets like fucking wasted. Yeah. And then he's talking a lot of shit.
Before they get there, they go to the food bank, and that's where Hannah and Bobby are at. And Nathan talks with Bobby, and Audrey talks with Hannah, and learns what Rev wants, Rev gets. And Bobby, when he's in his mood, he goes to his room, and Hannah just takes it. So
yeah, and then we move to the school, right? And that's where Bobby's all excited about his science project, and he's trying to outdo Hannah. And then the final destination shit happens where Nathan and Audrey, the sparking cable comes from the ceiling and it's swinging around. There's water leaking into the hallway, and all the doors are locked, and they gotta jump up on a bench, which is metal.
Just like Final Destination, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, some shit like that. Or The Collector. I don't know if you remember the movie The Collector. We watched it together.
I do remember the Collector. And
he fucking electrifies the floor and dumps that fish tank to try to kill the Collector.
Hey, at least he was thinking. I mean, everyone else in real life would be in there shitting your pants and pretty much dead.
That was like the only case of a movie where I thought the main character was not only smart, but like way smarter than any normal person would be, which was pretty cool to see. Normally, it's just the serial killer is unstoppably intelligent and agile and quick, and this finally met his match with this thief in The Collector.
That is indeed a good movie. So if you listeners, if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend. Obviously Alex recommends it as well.
Yeah, The Collection's okay. It's still pretty fucking crazy, but not as good as The Collector. Do you see the sequel, Collection?
Nah. I'm wary of sequels. They scare me. I'm sorry. I've been irreparably harmed by the Star Wars prequels, and my universe, they don't exist.
What about the new ones?
You know my feelings on the last film. I'd rather not even speak of it. It was it was trash. It was just pure trash, and I'm embarrassed and ashamed for anyone involved in it. Jeez.
I understand why they did it. They got pretty big paychecks.
Cha-ching.
I would do it.
Cha-ching. Oh yeah, if I was offered a role, hell yeah, I would. Jeez, I'd be the 6th Backstreet Boy if they paid me.
I think you'd have to pay them. Okay, so Bobby's got a problem. Whenever he goes to sleep, the nightmares he has start manifesting in real life, right? It's like a reverse Nightmare on Elm Street, where when they sleep, they go into these nightmares. When he sleeps, his nightmares become real.
Right. So they go back to Reb's house, and they take a look through his room, and sure enough, what's sitting on his table? A bronze ball. Magnets.
Yeah,
and the string.
Yeah.
And then the actual symbol of something supernatural is going to take place is the butterfly. Rev collects butterflies, got Bobby interested, so Bobby collects butterflies.
Yeah.
All those things are prominently placed in his room when he falls asleep. So they realize that, and that's when they realize, we got to go find Bobby.
Right. And Bobby, the trauma for Bobby comes from his parents died in a car accident that he felt he could have prevented because his dad was dicking around with the radio.
Dads never do that in my world, but yeah, I did it all the time.
So dad's dicking around with the radio. They got in a car crash. Bobby still has nightmares that he could have prevented that, and that's what makes them manifest. So at the end, as Audrey and Nathan are driving to find him, his nightmare takes control of the car and starts reenacting the crash, and they have to listen to him and take his advice on how to not crash, even though they still crash, but they survive because of it, and they thank him, and that kind of gets them out of the situation for now.
Right. Audrey realized that she could, if he can see us, we're in his dream. So she comes up with the idea to start talking to him as his mother. And then Nathan's kind of skeptical, but it starts working. And Bobby actually even appears in the vehicle with them. Finally, Nathan says he won't mess with the radio, and presto, they're saved.
They kind of, help Hannah and Bobby move out from the Rev's house because the Rev is clearly not interested in raising a freak because he thinks people with the troubles are the problem. Real quick, we get a conversation with the Chief Warnos, and he's going to help Audrey with the case and shows her the evidence box for the Colorado Kid case, I should say.
Empty,
just dust. And she's like, is this a fucking joke? Hannah and Bobby move out, and then Audrey and Nathan have a final conversation by the beach, right?
Right, where Hannah's sorry that she didn't take the chance to be with him when they were young and followed the Rev's orders, and that she regretted it. And and Nathan's like, hey, it's a long time ago. As you see from this episode, he's a player. Yeah.
Well, that was with Hannah, right? And then he has a conversation with Audrey after that. And what's kind of he kind of explains, right, why he can't feel anything.
Well, first, back to the chief. The chief offers her a job. He's like, hey, and Chief has this line, and I know we're trying to be more macro, but Chief has a line where he says, other people see what they want to see. You see what things really are. And you go like, that's a special skill. We could use your help here. And he's, so he floats the job offer to her. She says she'll think about it. And then her and Nathan meet at that park bench overlooking the coast. And Nathan comes clean. He tells her about 1983 and what happened to him with his shoulder and his sled accident and how people treated him afterwards and how they went away. And the key thing is he was worried that they wouldn't go away this time. And,
and
kind
they
of
being the Troubles, right?
The Troubles, yeah. He explains the Troubles to Audrey.
Pretty vaguely. He just says the Troubles, some people had some troubles. It was 1983, people were really scared and shit. Kids getting pulled out of school, but then it ended, and now it's back.
Well, and then Audrey and him both realized that the picture in the Colorado Kid was 1983.
Right.
So they think, hey, this shit could be connected, and I guess I got to stay in Haven. And then, of course, Nathan wraps it up with, she asks him want to get some dinner, and he's like, I sure do love pancakes.
I think he's like, I want pancakes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you think about this as a second episode for Haven?
I liked it a lot myself. I think I liked it more than you did because I realized after last week thinking that Audrey was my favorite character, and she was probably that episode, but Nathan has always been probably my favorite character overall. I mean, I loved him this episode because he was savage, Nathan. He was lighting Rev up, and we just don't see that. He had this one line that was incredible, because we learned that the Rev's wife, before she died, she'd actually left him and kind of left with one of the deacons and then she died 3 days later. And Nathan tears them apart and says, the way I hear it, your wife died 3 days after she was with the deacon, and he says it's like I bet those were the best 3 days of her life, and that's just just savage, and that is just pure savage. And I liked it. He went a little overboard with the anger and that, but I really think this was a good way to introduce really the Troubles. You got hints of it last time. This is the opening, which I thought was really, really cool. I liked it. When we get to ratings, I'll give you my stars.
Well, I think we're in ratings.
We're in ratings. All right.
Yeah, I actually remembered while watching this what I thought about this the first time I saw it. I'm fairly certain I didn't like it the first time I watched it. I think I remember watching the pilot being like, this is pretty cool. And I think I watched the second episode and I was like, I don't know. And I think I let the episodes build up. And then I think when I started watching through the rest of season 1 is when I think moving on, that's when I was impressed with Haven. But at the time, I remember the cocoon scene really stuck in my mind. I remember rewatching it this time. I was like, oh boy, like I remember not liking this back in 2010 when this came out.
But the cocoon scene is horrible. Although Audrey does have a great line in there when she moves the butterfly and she's like, "Polyester is so beneath you." I mean, that was funny. That's the kind of zingers that I should say lines that Audrey and Nathan come up with in the show. And other characters, Duke will have his moments later on, and that. But
yeah,
the cocoon scene is tough because, okay, she gets cocooned and we're supposed to be afraid for her, but it sure looks like Nathan doesn't get her till the next morning. Isn't that how it looks?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. So at night she gets cocooned, calls Nathan. She can't get any words out. You know, he's yelling, Audrey, Audrey, Audrey. And then commercial, which obviously we don't have commercials because we're watching it on Blu-ray now. And then it looks like it's morning.
Right. That's what I recall from it as well.
And the cocoon's been cut open. And she's like, well, thank God you got here in time and cut me out. And it's like, well, I think we would have liked to see the action of him like having to cut her out and being like confused by seeing this like thread cocoon she's caught in. He's pretty like nonchalant. He's like, oh yeah, just another day, another thread cocoon.
So he has this great line. What are you going to say? You wrap me up in a cocoon? Confess? I just thought that was fucking hilarious. And even she acknowledges, okay, yeah, that sounds preposterous. And if anyone saw the action of it, they would think it was preposterous because it looks so fake and shitty.
Here's like a question I was going to ask. This leads into like a question I had was that this, or at least a note, was that this second episode seems to backtrack on a lot of what the pilot did. One of which is if Nathan mentioning, oh yeah, the Troubles used to be a thing in 1983. Why was he denying stuff in the pilot? Like, oh, what do you think? It's someone who can control the weather? That's insane. Or like this person made a cocoon. It's like, bro, if you were like a kid during the first Troubles, don't you think you'd be a bit more receptive to this version? So I think he's like, well, what are you going to see? You're wrapped in a cocoon. I'm like, that sounds pretty normal considering, or that sounds like something that could happen in Haven considering, that 1983 was this apocalyptic end time.
Right. And I think he knew the Troubles were back in episode 1. But he didn't want to. He probably didn't want to believe it. But I think he knew it, and there was no denying it at the end of this episode that the Troubles were back. And
another thing was Audrey, kind of saying she's going to stay in episode 1, and then in 2, she's like, it seems like there's still an argument for her staying. Right? Like I understand that she's with the FBI and Chief offers her a job this time. But it seemed kind of weird where it seemed at the end of episode 1, it's established like, yeah, I'm staying. And then at the beginning of this episode, it was the chief trying to convince her to stay permanently
because they needed a mechanism for her to actually, it was one of my notes I had was I love the way Chief engineered this. Chief said it, Chief knew there was nothing in that evidence box and all of that. But here's the here's the carrot, here's the stick, come work for me because he knows she can help in these situations. And
I thought it was a bit of sloppy overlap, to be honest, is like, oh, come stay, but actually, okay, you did, okay, but actually, let's go over this plot line again and make sure you really stay this time. Like when he could have offered her a job at the end of episode 1, I don't know. I think it was a bit inefficient, I would say.
Well, and I listened to a bit of the director's commentary, not the director, excuse me, the writers, Urs and Dunn, even though only one of them, I can't remember which one it was, wrote it themselves.
Yeah.
This episode was originally supposed to be the 4th episode, and they just they changed their mind and thought it needed to go to be the 2nd because they really wanted to focus on Nathan for this episode because episode 1 is that's an Audrey episode.
Well, it's an Audrey episode, but it also introduces so much, right? It's like the town, a lot of the main characters, which was what I thought was weird about this episode was the lack of Duke, Dave, and Vince as essential characters to the like whole show in general. Not making an appearance was strange to me. It's almost a little confusing because it's like you're getting less information than the pilot. or like there's less stuff established. It almost like feels backwards in a way to me, where we're establishing the troubles, but we've pulled away more we've taken away more of Haven, and maybe that's for the best. But for me, it felt a little simple. It felt a little bare, this episode.
The writers, they acknowledged in the commentary that they had to rewrite scenes and stuff because of it. And that's the one thing is I didn't get far enough along to know. I would love to know what was the original uncut 4 looked like, and which was and it's what's 3 now was 2. How much changes were in there for that? I like it because I think the core. Haven's core is 2 things. It's the story of Audrey, what's going on with that picture from 1983, and the troubles themselves. As we'll see as episodes go along. I mean, it's we're going to be tackling at least one trouble per week, if not more sometimes. I definitely liked it more than you, but I can see your point about that, and it is looks a little disjointed, like it was. It's like taped together.
I'm a little curious what episode 3 is going to look like. If we watch it, I'm going to be like, this was a much better episode 2, or are we going to say, I totally understand why they didn't go with this. Yeah, we'll see if like episode 3 is more, if I see it, I'm like, this feels like an episode 2, or are we going to say, oh, I understand. This doesn't feel right. I understand trying to change it later on, like to be, for this episode, Butterfly to be like the new episode 2.
Well, and maybe that explains some of the lack of continuity from the pilot. Is maybe if this is episode 4 and Nathan's still trying to be a trouble denier, and finally he just has to admit it. Yeah,
it's a little funny that at the end of like 2 episodes he's like, all right, I'll come clean. The troubles happened, and it's like not much of a you don't have much of a poker face. He's not too good at keeping a secret. If he's like, oh, okay, I've spent 2 days with you, Audrey, I guess I'll spill the beans. Here's the troubles, and I'm part of it. I'm one of God's orphans, right? I think we discovered a new drinking game. Anytime Nathan says bottom of the bottle or bottom of a bottle, take a shot. I think at least 3 times you can tell the writers were just so in love with the phrase where they're like, oh yeah, when Nathan's saying the Rev's a fucking drunk, we're going to say bottom of, like, he's found him in a bottom of a bottle, or the only hope he can find is in the bottom of a bottle. And they just keep saying it over and over.
They should have used a cut of Smile Empty Soul song there. And,
he does it for the love, as the radio edit said.
Yeah.
Man,
he does it for the love, not the drugs.
What's the Venn diagram of people like Haven, the SyFy show, and have even heard of Smile Empty Soul?
Hey, there are some emo folks who like Haven, I'm sure. Yeah.
Is it emo, or is it like kind of like butt rock type? Like, I think they're like Christian generally, aren't they? Like, I think that like a lot of their other music was Christian.
Yeah, they were kind of one-hit wonder, and
not even hit one single.
Yeah, that was
spectacular. Not even a wonder.
It was a catchy song, but it would have fit the episode. Yeah, they could have used it.
How did you like the variety of this episode? Like, so have we seen these types of episodes? Is this like a more Monster of the Week type staple? Is like the dream episode, like somebody's dreaming something into existence? I feel like Supernatural had an episode like this. I can't off the top of my head. I would be shocked if X-Files didn't have an episode like this.
I'm sure there are. I can't recall a specific one, but I mean, it's part of the franchise. If you're doing something supernatural, you gotta have some type of dreams.
Yeah,
dream scenarios that happens. I mean, I found myself thinking that, as if I was wondering, did the writers were they trying to pay homage to Nightmare on Elm Street, like with the?
I thought it was more Final Destination than especially the like water electric scene. I was like, this is so Final Destination.
Right, and but those are all things that were done during Nightmare on Elm Street as well. So, and Erst and Dunn are like my age, I think. So it would have been heavily influenced. But that doesn't mean Final Destination didn't influence it. I don't know. I need to watch the commentary to see if they do. Just mention any of their inspiration for some of these things. Like, I think the scene where they're in the truck, they're in the truck, and Bobby appears in the truck. I'm thinking Dead Zone right away. I'm just like, and so happens Ernst and Dunn with the other producers worked on the Dead Zone on the USA Network. So I could almost picture Christopher Walken in the backseat.
I was gonna say all. Is he warning them about their cup of coffee they left in the taxi?
Yes, you're gonna want that coffee. I don't do a good walking. Sorry.
It's you either have it or you don't.
Yeah,
I definitely don't.
Spacey's got it.
What do you have a celebrity impression?
No, I can do walking when I'm drinking, but not great.
Can you, or do you feel, or do the beer goggles say?
A couple of my friends think it's good, but then we're all drinking. So and it's not consistent. I can't hit it every time. So it's one of those things like the stars align, and I can do a walk-in, but it's got to be fast because there's no way I can sustain it. And I haven't mastered dramatic pause enough so
it's a tough skill. So like I said, I feel like it's just you're born with it or you're not.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
Spacey's got it. Comedian Jay Moore's got it.
I don't know if Jay Moore's is good. I don't know if anyone's is trying to listen to Kevin Spacey's walking impression anymore.
Oh no, Kevin Spacey has
his DOA.
Yeah, he killed his career with some very bad behavior. And,
I don't even think he could get cast on something like Haven now.
No, if he's not doing Sci-Fi Network, I'm thinking he's got to go to another country. I mean,
probably Turkey or somewhere.
Yeah, he needs to leave this hemisphere. Yeah,
so
he might not even find work there.
Yeah, maybe. I wonder how they receive. I wonder how they would react to an American star, a disgraced, blacklisted American celebrity coming to work there.
Maybe Bollywood.
I don't know. So this one's like very case of the week, right? Like it's not as the first episode had a case of the week situation, but not as much as this one. This one has very little overall story. I guess with Audrey's overall story because the file or the evidence box ends up being empty, right? So I guess my question was this to you. We talked about this a little last week with, do we think the show would be all right in modern times? But I wanted to ask that, what kind of watcher are you? Do you like the monster of the week, or are you a big story guy? Like, so a lot of the time now, like if we're a true detective, right, isn't 8 little stories. It's one big story cut into 8 parts, right?
Right.
So are you like the true detective kind of like watcher now, or you want the show to be one big story, like one big movie cut up into segments, or do you like this, each one's kind of its own capsule? You can kind of watch an episode, and if you don't know the big overall story, nothing really lost. You can still enjoy beginning, middle, and end without knowing really the rest of the show. Like, do you have like a preference?
Well, and it's for different things. For my movies, yeah, I like it like that. But I am comfortable with this, this episodic formula where you do have a monster of the week and you slowly progress the overarching story through. I'm big into I read fantasy books, and this is what we do is you stretch out the books, you flesh out these characters, make 7 to 10 books, and as a fantasy fan, you usually you suck it up and you're great.
What's Wheel of Time? Wheel of Time is what? Was that 13 or something?
Yeah, and Wheel of Time had to be finished by Brandon Sanderson because Robert Jordan got sick. But even before he got sick, he had stopped. He had stopped writing, putting them out as frequently. The worst example of that is George. I can't finish the last fucking book. R.R. Martin with Game of Thrones. I hear
he's been making progress on Winds of Winter though, since the stay-at-home order. So I would fucking hope you have no excuse now.
Yeah, exactly. He's not jet setting all over, all over Croatia, and you talk about. He sure seems to have loved the fame he's gotten from this.
Yeah, I think that might be a generational thing. That I think your generation and older are more down with the Monster of the Week, Case of the Week episodes, whereas my generation, I'm on the very end tip of millennials. So moving forward with younger millennials, I'm not that young anymore, I guess, but younger scale of millennials and Gen Z definitely, I think, move more towards that. They want a giant one that they can binge all at once, right? Because I don't think shows like Haven or X-Files or Supernatural are like super binge geared, maybe is the word I'm looking for. Like you can finish an episode and be like, I'm done. I'm good for the week. I don't really need to watch this again. Whereas a lot of these other shows, I think one I watched was Sabrina on Netflix, which is pretty good. Ends in like very intense cliffhangers, and not like cliffhangers like, what were the troubles? It's kind of like, oh my God, like this, literally that story isn't wrapped up at all. I have to watch the second episode to like finish out this like moment, this scene, which sometimes like older TV shows do, but not as much. It's a newer thing.
Everything was, we mentioned this last week about the show is, they knew they got greenlit for a full season. So,
yeah.
You want to have that full season, and you're gonna put a lot of the meat and the really good shit at the end, so that you can get that second season.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your goal. You got to put enough at the front, and they probably could have put a little more at the front with this. I mean, like I said, I did like the episode, but then again, like my generation, we're okay with it, and viewing habits have changed. I know folks even older than me who I know, like a 76-year-old guy I play tennis with, who's binge watches shows on Netflix with his wife in the evenings, and So.
Yeah, like, well, I think it's because of DVR and streaming services, right? Like with DVR, it was like, oh, I can record the whole season, watch it all at once. I want to say that's how I predominantly watched Haven when I watched it the first time, was I'd let the season build up and then just bulldoze through it like quickly, which I guess counters what I just said about Haven not being a great binge show. But
liar!
Yeah, I guess I have to retract that statement. But I think that's, once again, because of the younger viewing habits, and because older shows were designed, who's going to jump into the show at what point, right? Like, Walker, Texas Ranger, right? Who knows when they're going to jump in? So you can't have this giant continuous story.
Right. And
unless Walker, Texas Ranger has a giant continuous story. I actually don't know.
Not that I'm aware of, but I really didn't watch it that much.
It's coming back.
Yeah. Jared Padalecki from Supernatural is going to be Walker. Yeah. I don't know if he's up to it. Yeah, I know he is up to like beating the shit out of some, getting in a fight in an Austin bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just thinking he's like only an hour north of me. I better watch my mouth.
Could have been
drive
you.
down here and kick my ass.
Would you be talking shit to a guy who's like, was he 6'3", 6'4"?
No, I wouldn't be talking shit to a guy who clearly must have, roided up from season 1 to like 3.
I don't know.
I'm kidding. Jared, don't come kick my ass in San Antonio, please. I'm just kidding.
And can win any case because he's got enough money to beat you in court too.
No, that would be like my mixed martial arts introduction. I run around the ring for 30 seconds and then just fall and tap. I mean, that was if they got anywhere near me, I'm falling and tapping before they can even punch me.
All right. We got to talk about Nathan's sideburn, though. Speaking of sideburns, because Jared Padalecki has sideburns sometimes in Supernatural, which I don't know about that look. We got to talk about Nathan's weird. Did you notice it? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. At the end on the bench, it looks like his sideburn got like shaved a little above. Like he's got like a little. It looks like he has a square kind of like on his right in the jaw hinge.
Yeah, his sideburns definitely looked funky. He had
he's got to work on it.
Yeah. He wasn't. There was no maintenance there, and maybe he was trying to maintain it. That would be a funny story if he was trying to maintain it and fucked up and shaved a little part of an accident. It can happen.
In story, I imagine it was when he was getting ready to cut that rope cocoon. He was fumbling with the knife and just went by his face. Maybe give him a close shave.
Well, you can't feel anything. You imagine how hard it is gripping
to shave. Yeah. How hard is it to shave if you can't feel anything? Who knows? He might be cutting him, but he is shaved. If this show came out in 2020, he'd for sure have a beard.
He would have a beard. That's for sure. That would be
because when Edge, little sneak peek, when Edge comes on later, he has a beard, right?
I think he does. I know at some point.
It's not like a shaggy beard. It's from what I remember, it's not like a shaggy.
No,
beard
I think it's pretty trim.
Yeah.
Or is it a goatee?
I think it's a beard. I think he's got the full beard because I think what little I can remember of wrestling from when I was a kid, he's pretty stubbly. It looks like if he shaves, he's getting a lot of it back by the end of the day.
Yes, the aforementioned Adam Copeland. So
is that his name?
Yeah, that's his name.
I don't think I ever knew his name. I just knew his Edge.
Well, and funny thing is, they actually had Christian, who was his Edge's partner in the WWE at that time, F at that time, and now E. He actually crosses over to Haven too, so that's two spoilers.
Oh my god!
I think it's limited. I'm pretty sure it's limited. Here's the thing: in real life, they were friends in Canada, and they both embarked on their wrestling careers together. And look at that! And Edge carried him in wrestling, and now he carried him in television as well. So Christian, you owe Edge quite a bit.
What is
also don't kick my ass.
yeah. What is our audience looking like here? Where the crossover between Haven fans, WWF fans, and Smile Empty Soul fans. This is going to be an interesting Venn diagram.
Well, we're just going to keep expanding till we catch everybody some way, somehow. You'll 6 degrees of separation from Haven. Yeah. And I'm going to get my ass kicked by numerous celebrities.
We can only hope. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I have life insurance. That's what he's referencing there.
I didn't think this episode was as funny as the first one. It was lacking a little something. I don't know.
It didn't have as many because Nathan had to be, he had to be Rampage Nathan, kind of like Rampage Archer. So not that bad, but he had his moments. So and there was funny moments like when. After he tells her why the Rev is pissed at him because Nathan invited her to prom, and then instead of going to prom, they went up on the cliffside and watched a meteor shower naked. And then Audrey was like, and you can see he's actually looking like a little proud of that. And then she's like, "Oh, Nathan," he's like, and it comes out like, "Why?" And he's like, "Why? Meteor showers are better naked."
Well, then doesn't he say the naked was her idea? He does. The naked was her idea. Okay.
He does, but it ends with his one-liner. That was so that was funny.
There's like some moments, but I think overall the first episode had a better balance of humor. And I think, honestly, what is missing is either Vincent Dave or Duke, because I think both of those, that character and character duo, have a lot more humor ingrained in their interactions, right? Duke is normally a smart ass, so the conversations are generally more fun with him. And then Vincent Dave, the fun, it comes from their bickering and banter with each other and then interacting with a third party. So I think that was honestly missing for me this episode.
And that's because it was completely. Its intent was to be really focused on Nathan. And Nathan, his sense of humor is dry. He's not out there. I do weddings and bar mitzvahs as well. That's just not his. That's not his shtick. And my memory serves me right. We slowly, everybody comes into play, and the show, in my opinion. Now, I hate to be jumping ahead, but it's at its best when all of its main elements are in play at the same time.
Yeah, and that's why I think this episode was a little weaker because it didn't have a lot of those elements, which is nice to focus on Nathan. But I think this kind of opened our eyes where. I know this sounds like such a betrayal because this first podcast episode, I said Nathan was my favorite. Now I'm saying, he's not strong enough to carry the show, though.
Not as the character is written.
And Audrey, opinion, I think Audrey was lacking a bit of her smart assery as well in this episode. I don't know. She didn't seem as smart assy as she did the first episode.
Oh, no. I mean, she had a couple moments, like in the first scene with Chief, and then she's like, "Oh, you're going to go the folksy local police route on me," and. I was trying to be civil. I mean, so she had a little, but it wasn't typical Audrey. So I can see that as well with that. Actually, after talking to you, I don't like the episode as much as I did before I spoke with you. So thanks, Debbie Downer.
I know this is things people say is that I just bring down the energy in the room. No, I'm just kidding. I think that's it for the episode. One last thing. What do you think about the Rev overall? Is he because he's a moving forward. He's a character who's going to appear, I don't know, like super often, but often moving forward. And do you like him? Do you think this is a good first episode, a good introduction to him? Do we know him?
I do think they did it pretty well, actually. The Rev. I always like to call him a heel in the Haven universe because, we start introducing wrestlers later on in there where you typically hear the term heel. So I like that. Rev's one of those standard, he's a standard like character type. You need that, that religious fire breathing, bigoted type character. And I think he's played really well by the actor. You mentioned his name.
Stephen McHattie.
And Ernst and Dunn love him. They think he's a phenomenal, Canadian actor.
I can't remember what happens with him later in the season because I mix up this and do you remember the movie Immortals? It was the dude who did. Do you remember The Cell with J-Lo?
Yeah,
she goes into
Vince
dreams.
Vaughn?
Yeah. It's the director who did that, and he did a movie with Lee Pace called The Fall, which I hear is really amazing. It's been on my list, but I haven't seen it yet. But his movie after that was Immortals about Greek gods, and Stephen McHattie's also kind of an asshole in that one. So I can't remember if the scenes I'm thinking of are from that or this, like for the end, for like how things go with the character.
I think I did see it because I have an image of McCaddy in like a toga in my mind, and
and he's also in Watchmen. He's the old night owl.
Oh yeah, that's right. Didn't even realize it.
Hollis something. I can't remember his last name, but in the extended cut, you can see the not Top gang beat him to fucking death with his own trophies.
That's bonus content. You got to buy it to get to see that.
That's on Zack Snyder's Patreon. Okay, so we're so far off track. But to get us back on track, I think we're done. Okay, I'll talk about the Rev a little bit. I really like the Rev. He's a really cool character. Like you said, I think you need that kind of anger, that like darkness, that cloud. And I think he kind of, because so far everyone in Haven's very nice. Everyone's the brothers, the Teague brothers are very helpful. The chief, even though, he's kind of a prick sometimes, there's a softer side to him. It's just hard to.
Yeah, I made a note about that. I really liked the chief this episode.
Yeah, he kind of 180s from the way he was in the first episode too. Like I said, there's a lot of like, oh wait, so like from the first episode,
right? He's to me, he completely engineered getting Audrey to stay in town because he knows she can help with the troubles. And
yeah.
He definitely knows, obviously, a lot more than he's letting onto her. I personally think. Back when I first watched this, that I connected Howard and the chief. Dude, Howard was talking to the chief. Had to be. So
I haven't even thought of who Howard's talking to. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't recall if that actually gets revealed as time goes by. I mean,
I'm sure it does.
I imagine it does. But that's right now at this point. That's where I'd be putting my money. Even though, they like to bait and switch, this person's it. No, it's this person. Oh, shit. It was the third person that we thought was too innocent.
Yeah, Bobby was a pretty predictable pick. So, yeah, I like the Rev. I think he's an essential character to kind of bring that, for lack of a better term, a bad guy to the town.
Yeah, I mean, I think he gets worse as time goes by. And but what he also serves purpose, he's drawing a line. There's the people with the troubles, and everyone else is godly. Yeah, he's drawing a line, and as time goes by, we're going to see more of that. But I don't want to give away too much. Watch the episodes. Better yet, don't watch them and just listen to us.
Yeah, I don't know if this does justice to... So let's talk about the show opening. The pilot, we didn't have a true intro. We just got the Haven logo, which they don't do this time. This time they give us the little intro thing. And you did some intense, in-depth research, some good reporting. There's really only one part of the intro that I like to talk. Well, I like the song a lot, but other than that, there's only one image from the intro that really intrigues me. But I think you did a pretty in-depth, detailed breakdown of everything that happened. So. It took me over an hour and a half of pausing and rewinding to make sure what I was seeing. I actually even read the articles on the newspapers. You could have listened to this podcast in that time. Well, you see, this is why I'm doing the work so that listeners don't have to. You don't have to do that. Now I have. So I think maybe is listening to us work though. It could be. Yeah. So basically, when I broke out the montage, it was 27 different, kind of scenes within 30 seconds it was. It was long. I know, I'm betting I know which one interests you, and that's kind of scene 6 with the Haven Herald newspaper from 1698. Yeah, the most revered Flagg to elaborate on the proper devices and godly mechanism for the examination and discovery of witches. The Church of the Holy Trinity is even welcome to offer their grand ball for the special offering of this discourse, which is, I was pretty impressed with the detail they went through for a montage image on that, because I'm not pleased about some of the other montage images. I was like, some of the shots are pretty weird and like cheap. Like some of them just look like a camera guy came into a room, just like trundling in, and then someone's walking into the captain's cabin of the ship or whatever that is, the office. We'll just throw that in there. Yeah, get old timey pictures of what which probably isn't Haven, but everything in Maine, Nova Scotia looks the same for the most part. And now you're gonna get the whole town of Nova Scotia come kick your ass. The wonderful people led by Edge.
He's not from Nova Scotia, though.
They're led by Christian, actually.
Yeah, Christian's probably the one who's got a problem with me. Yeah.
Jared Padalecki.
Please do not beat my ass. I was just kidding. I used to watch wrestling. I took you to the Tacoma Dome to see wrestling. I don't think those guys were in at that point.
I don't think so.
You got to see you got to see Stone Cold Steve Austin team up with Ahmad Johnson, and
I was there for Undertaker.
Yep, you were there for Undertaker. You got to see the Road Warriors, which you can't do now because one of them's dead. So,
yeah.
Making memories.
Yeah, so that one image with Flagg's name is what interests me. We won't go as far as we can tell. As far as I can tell, I don't know if Flagg is any other involvement in the show. If you've read The Stand and other King works, then you'll know the name Flagg, Flagg. I haven't read a bunch of stuff, so I know that there's some other Flagg involvement in the King-averse, the King-verse, King
right.
multiverse.
Yeah, Flagg definitely is a prominent player in the Dark Tower. If Flagg comes into play, obviously The Stand is his kind of spotlight book. I think he might be in part in Insomnia, which is another great King book. It takes a while to get into it. I mean, it literally took me. I got to like the halfway point before I was into the book. That's how long it took me to get into it.
I haven't read it, but I've seen now times a big.
If I didn't have faith in King, it wouldn't have worked out. But it paid off. It paid off, and that was a great book. So Flagg is kind of personification of evil, and I was curious. I didn't look this up yet. Was when 1698 was that the year of the Salem witch trials?
I would guess around that time.
It's around that time, but yeah.
So he was a witch hunter, causing up chaos, maybe pulling his shtick from The Stand again, trying to divide people.
Divide people and serve the cause of evil by prosecuting and killing, discovering false witches. Yeah. Accusing them and unjustly prosecuting them, kind of, because we know what the sentence was for that was, hey, let's put a bunch of stones on your chest and drop you in the water, and
if you get out, you're a witch, and if you die, well, you were human.
You're going to heaven.
Yeah, great.
Great, thanks. Yeah, that was ridiculous. And regarding the montage, they mentioned in the commentary that there's 2 hints that'll be for 2 things that develop over the season, and I'm not sure what they are. I gotta think it's mermaid related, because there's a lot of mermaids. There's a picture of a mermaid and a merman, and it's like an old timey drawing of them in the sea. Then later, one of the.
Do you think anyone says merman, Dad? Merman, do you remember Zoolander?
Is it a mer person?
In Zoolander, when he's like, you're on TV as a fucking mermaid, and then he gets mad at his dad when he's like a merman, Dad, merman, and then I think they're in a bar or something.
Oh yeah, John.
He's working as a coal miner with his dad at the after he gives up modeling.
Yeah, because he's got to come up with a new look because Blue Steel has run its course. Yeah, I do remember that. I'm sorry, the scene where they're having the gasoline fight, that is classic. I mean, there's a lot of holes in that movie, but that is till Wham's Wake Me Up Before You Go, because you could just picture some dumb, some dumb models. Not all models are dumb. So you could picture some dumb models just being totally oblivious.
The just running total of people that are going to kick your ass after this episode keeps growing. Now you've added Ben Stiller to the list.
I'm giving him credit that it's a funny movie. I just said there were some holes in it.
He's an avid listener, I'm sure he... Yeah, he has it on his Apple podcast whenever a new episode comes up. Been exchanging emails. He's going to be a guest soon.
If he would be editing any comments out. We're not big enough time that we can turn down someone who actually is relevant.
I know you've blown our chances of getting Christian.
I think he still periodically wrestles. So, he's make money or go to San Antonio and beat up some guy. Yeah. I wish that was the only people that I'm on their list. So other things I think that are when I speak to the mermaids, there's this. It's towards the end of it. It's one of the last scenes in the montage. They're showing the street of Haven, down this Haven streets with the shops, and then you pause it, you look, and in the all of the windows there's images of mermaids. In all of the windows. So I gotta think when they talk about the two clues. something mermaid. There's a mermaid episode coming probably. And the thing is, I remember a mermaid episode. Or in this case, it was both sexes, so I guess mer people.
All right,
remember,
so that's one hint. What's the? Do you can't figure out the other one? Maybe is there something with the light? The lighthouse has to be like pretty prominent.
The lighthouse, but I really think the lighthouse is just is a symbol in it. There's nothing that really happens with the light. There's 2 lighthouses in it. I think there's lightning by one. And what other images they show a gabled church, and they show it first perfectly normal, then it bleeds very quickly into what I think is the same church on fire. So we could be dealing with a church fire, and who knows, maybe the clues are related to the fake Haven Herald newspaper articles. And
we'll have to keep an eye out. And any fans listening, if you notice anything or any King's Easter eggs that we've missed, right into us. Definitely,
because I'm sure, like I said, that montage, there's so much going on and it moves so fast. I could miss stuff, and there was definitely. And we know, I've read that they've tried to pay a lot of, tribute to King during their episodes. Like in this one, Bobby Moeller was a character from the King universe, and it was important. That's what, like when they first introduced Bobby, right? No one goes, "Hey, here's my daughter Hannah, and here's Bobby Mueller." And no, you would normally just say, "And here's Bobby, her foster son." But it was really important for them that they wanted to say the name Bobby Mueller, so that they were, paying tribute to King.
What is that from a book?
Now you're going to put me on the spot. I can't remember which King book it is, and I was supposed to look that up today.
All right, since we don't know, that's not that we don't know, we do know. But we'd pose this question to the audience. What part of the Stephen King universe is Bobby from? What book, TV show, anything like that? If you can figure it out, kind of send it in to us. We'll have the answer on, but we'd love to hear if you can answer it. Was there anything else about the intro you wanted to kind of go over real quick?
There are a couple things that were just kind of side note that was interesting. One thing is that when they show the clips of the Haven Herald newspaper headlines, when you read the stories, it's the same story over and over, which is about a wolf attack of prominent people. And as you go along, that story keeps reappearing as the text. So I don't know if it was intentional or it was just filler, really. They just want, let's just use this because, it turns out the same story all the way from the beginning almost to the end. It's still there, except for in the last Haven Herald newspaper shot, which is obviously the issue with the Colorado kid murder and Aubrey's mother and holding the boy's hand.
Audrey.
Did I say Aubrey?
I said it too once this episode. So
well, your cousin Nicole, her daughter is Aubrey. So.
Yeah, and Aubrey from Survivor.
Well, yeah, Big Brother's back.
Well, yeah, we went over this last time.
Someone's going home tonight. I don't know if they're going home. They're not really going home tonight. So one of the interesting things I find was that in 1725, the price for the Haven Herald was 2 cents.
Damn.
Yeah, and then in October 13th, 1934, price was up to 5 cents. So and that was pre-Teague time. The Teagues, I believe, were his 40s when Vincent opened it.
In the book, right?
In the book. I read it in a book. Dodgeball reference.
Yeah, some White Goodman.
Yeah.
The Venn diagram grows more complex. Well, actually, no, it's Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
Maybe this will appease him. Maybe he won't come kick your ass now.
No one makes me bleed my own blood. There's White Goodman. He's not a celebrity, but I can only do certain lines. So the price is up to 5 cents in 1934. Then when we get to 1956, it's up to 10 cents daily, $3.50 a year, $2 for 6 months. Yeah. And it's funny, the story mentions Chief Warnos, the wolf attack story that keeps repeating. And we know Chief Warnos wasn't the chief back in the 1600s and 1700s, but it's the same article. And every time a little more of it comes out in it. And so if there's a wolf attack, then here was our clue for it.
Do you think that's part of the Troubles?
It could be
somebody who
I'm almost positive
wolves.
I can semi-remember, a lycanthropic episode. Yeah, it might. I'm not sure if it's season 1, but then when we get to the 1983, the last Haven Herald headline, thank God, because those were a pain in the ass for me to read and write down that shit. The Teagues are making out like bandits. It's up to 50 cents an issue and $9.50 for a year, and five bones will get you 6 months.
And what year is this?
1983.
I wonder what it is in 2010.
Oh God! Well, in 2020, it's online only. So.
But they got that sweet advertising money on their website.
So the Teagues, that was really all I really wanted to talk about the montage. Like I said, it's really busy. I think it's done pretty well. Everything bleeds into each other pretty, fairly quickly. It's good music, like you said. It's really good music, and the images just fit, kind of the journey of it. And because like at the end, it's modern times. It's a black and white Haven PD card, door closing, a picture of Audrey's FBI badge, and ID,
the lighthouse, the town. We got some nice helicopter shots. This is pre-drone era. I think that. What's that?
There is an image of a black and white image of a burning lighthouse right in there as well. So there could be that probably has happened in Haven. Like I said, I wish I remembered more, but if I remembered more, I might be leaking more information ahead of time. So this is probably good.
This is good. We're not going to accidentally spoil things because we don't remember.
Senility,
so Ed shows up.
Yeah, senility has its benefits.
Well, I don't know what my excuse is.
48, I'm not senile yet, but I'm not as quick as I once was.
Well, I think that's it for the intro. So that ironically segues into our outro. We do weekly releases. So if you check back in a week or just follow us wherever you're listening to this, in 1 week, there'll be a new episode for you to listen to. We're going to be just moving sequentially through. If you want to reach us by email, you can reach us at troubledrewatchpod@gmail.com. That's troubledrewatchpod@gmail.com. You can find our podcast anywhere you listen to, like Apple Podcasts, Google, Podbean, Stitcher, all those places, and on SoundCloud as well. You can find all our episodes also on our website at troubledpodcast.com. We have news there, and it'll keep you updated on stuff like our Patreon page. That's where we'll be doing extra episodes, bonus exclusive content for patrons. It's called Troubled with Extra Syrup because of the, we love our pancakes here. In Haven, Maine. So the first extra episode we'll be doing is Colorado Kid, the novella by Stephen King that Haven is based off of. We're going to be doing just full coverage on that one. It probably won't be quite as long as our normal episodes, but it's still going to be good, and we'll keep you updated on what's coming every month for those extra episodes. But we want to thank you for listening, and if you like all that, go check it out. There'll be a bunch of links in the show notes. If anything that we've been talking about interests you that you want to look into further or find us, you can find it there.
We appreciate you listening to us, and we hope you come back and return to Haven with us again. Please be safe, and most importantly, never let your troubles get you down.